Yo, what's up, I'm your girl A1 the artist, aka I am the Black Sheep.
And I'm your girl Robin.
And today we're going to talk about the shit that people think about,
but don't want to talk about. Similar thoughts. Welcome back, everyone, to Similar Thoughts. I hope you guys had a great week. How was yours since the last time we spoke, A1?
It was pretty good. It's pretty good. I like the topics so far. I think they're very engaging. So we're going to try to turn the board a little bit more serious this week. So I'm looking forward to talking about these things because I know it affects our community quite a bit.
Absolutely. So as you can tell from the title of this episode, Juneteenth is coming up this Saturday, and if you don't know what Juneteenth is,
I am going to beat to death. No, I'm just playing.
It's okay. A lot of people actually don't know what it is because they didn't teach it to us in school.
You're right.
It's unfortunate. Like, we had to find this stuff out on our own, and actually, a lot of people learned about what Juneteenth was from that Blackish episode. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, the show Blackish.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't know what it was until that episode. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But for those of you who still don't know what Juneteenth is, I'm going to read an excerpt from the Smithsonian website for you. Okay? On Freedom's Eve, or the eve of January 1st, 1863, the first watch night service took place. On that night, enslaved and free African Americans gathered in churches and private homes all across the country, awaiting news that the Emancipation Proclamation had taken effect. At the stroke of midnight, prayers were answered as all enslaved people in Confederate states were declared legally free. Union soldiers, many of whom were Black, marched onto plantations and across cities in the South, reading small copies of the Emancipation Proclamation, spreading the news of freedom in Confederate states. Only through the 13th Amendment did emancipation end slavery throughout the United States. But not everyone in Confederate territory would immediately be free. Even though the Emancipation Proclamation was made effective in 1863, it could not be implemented in places still under Confederate control. As a result, in the westernmost Confederate state of Texas, enslaved people would not be free until much later. Freedom finally came on June 19, 1865, when some 2,000 Union troops arrived in Galveston Bay, Texas. The Army announced that the more than 250,000 enslaved Black people in that state were free by executive decree. Free. The day came to be known as Juneteenth, the day Black people got their freedom, the day Black people became free-ish.
Free-ish, yes, definitely say free-ish, like this Blackish is free-ish.
Free-ish, because honey, we all know we still ain't free.
Yes, that whole statement as you were reading it, I just thought about all the stuff that we are still going through, like with all the police brutality and the racism that's openly happening even in 2021. Like, it's crazy. It's like, will we ever get to the cycle of just people just genuinely loving one another instead of it being all this bullshit?
Unfortunately, no. This world was built on a superior complex, right? There's always somebody who believes that they're better, that believes they're superior. And I honestly hope one day we can get to that point where everybody is legitimately equal, but it ain't happening anytime soon.
Yeah, it's sad. But yeah.
It is. But due to the events that transpired last year, the George Floyd trial, that really, it started, well, it didn't start a movement, but because of what happened with the George Floyd incident, a lot of corporations actually finally started to recognize Juneteenth as a national holiday and made it a paid holiday.
That's pretty cool.
And just to give you, so just to give you some of the companies: Target, Spotify, JCPenney, Twitter, Nike, Levi, and the NFL all recognize Juneteenth as now a paid holiday.
I
Which
don't
is
want
beautiful.
to that is beautiful, but like I don't want to throw salt on the whole NFL thing, but I feel like that's kind of a like, oh, let's make it right, because with the Cameron, he kneeling down and everybody got a problem with him kneeling down, but now we're gonna recognize a black holiday per se. Like, come on now. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. It is trash. You know, they're, what is it? What is the saying? They're quality control now. They're just trying to clean up their mess now at this point.
Exactly.
I mean, I get it, but at least they're doing something. And the NFL is a big corporation, and as you know, corporations run this nation.
Facts.
So, I mean, I believe if we can get more corporations to recognize Juneteenth, it could potentially become a national holiday. Because actually, I just learned that MLK Day, it took 20 years for that to come to fruition. Like, 20 years to give that man
his credit.
A holiday. Yeah, and he did so much for this country, not just for black people, for this country. 20 years to give him a holiday. So, I mean, easier said than done, right? But I
wonder what your research would be if you were like Columbus Day or I don't even know what other holiday is given.
Oh, you know, I completely forgot about Columbus Day because we don't celebrate
exactly.
Columbus Day. You know, that's Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yeah,
Indigenous
exactly. There's so many people that need a holiday that don't have it. That's crazy.
Exactly, and I'm pretty sure they were quick to give Columbus a holiday, even though that man really didn't even discover America, as we've learned.
He wasn't. So, it was already discovered. How are you going to discover something people right here? Like, let's be
that
real.
part. That part. You just stumbled across a piece of land and called it
your own. Exactly. Oh my goodness. Anyways.
So yes. Anyways, I'm sorry.
I can go into all kinds of tangents about those things.
So tell me, like, what does Juneteenth mean to you? When did you learn about it?
My first experience with Juneteenth, I was in high school, probably like I was driving, so maybe my sophomore or junior year, and they had this big festival back home. And I remember, well, at the time I didn't know anything about it because, like you said, they didn't teach it in schools. But a friend of mine was like, "Oh, we're gonna go to Juneteenth," and I was like, "Well, what's that?" And they was like, "They be kicking it," and I'm like, "Okay, I'm with it." But when I went there, they had like the cultural performance. It was like African inspired dancing and singing and the drums, and they had like people selling black art and all of these things, and it was just amazing to me to be around in the atmosphere. And it was like the first time I had been somewhere, because I am from Kansas City and they be shooting for no reason. But it was the first time that I saw that many black people together and it wasn't any violence. And so that moment kind of stuck out to me, and I kind of attended those ever since. So yeah, I'm all for Juneteenth being a national holiday.
Absolutely. And, you know, earlier in the episode, I said a lot of people didn't learn about Juneteenth until that Blackish episode. Mm-hmm. I am one of those people, unfortunately. I went to school. I went to a predominantly white school in Alabaster, Alabama. And there was never, the word Juneteenth was never brought up. Mm-hmm. Like, I never knew about this at all. You know, 4th of July, that's our holiday. That's our independence. That's what we celebrate. And it's really unfortunate. And I hope with everything that has transpired in this nation that, you know, they are adding it to the curriculum. Like, we need to know.
Yeah.
Like, everybody wasn't free July 4th, 1863 or 1862. When was it? I don't even remember.
1865. 1865.
Right, like, I don't even care too much to know because we weren't free. Like, I can't, my people weren't free, so I don't care.
And then on top of that, to like some of the war at the time, they was enlisting people, black people that were black men, because women weren't allowed to fight. They were enlisting black men to be slaves. I mean, they were slaves, but they were forced to, like, they wanted to fight for their country. And it's like, what does that even mean? Like, let me throw them out to the front line and let them die first, and tell them that they fighting for our country. But you still, when you get done fighting, you still in captivity. Like, what part of the game is that?
Yeah. Like, my husband is in the military. My brother, my uncle, they're all in the military, or have been in the military. And I've always said that, like, I can't imagine fighting for a country that's not fighting for us. And not recently, this was a few months ago, a man in uniform, his military uniform was calm, cool, and collected, just wanted to know why he was getting pulled over. And these cops were aggressive as hell, shooting him with mace, cursing at him, telling him to get out of his car and get on the ground. A man who's serving our country, who's clearly in uniform, who's being cooperative, who is speaking calmly. Why are you yelling and cursing at him and macing him and throwing him to the ground? Like, it makes me so sad. It's heartbreaking and it's infuriating at the same time. It's like, we can't win. Even though this country dogs us out, we still out here serving this country, but serving a country that doesn't serve us.
That's like Donald Glover, when he say, "This is America." Childish Gambino, like, this is America, like, straight up, like, this is what we have to go through being black in America. Like, every day is a survival, like a means to a survival. It's sad when you have to train your children to be cautious because you don't know what's going to happen to them or yourself. Like, when you walk out your door, you don't get to walk around being safe and secure, or not have the worry of possibly dying that day. And that's sad.
It really is sad. Like, no parent should have to have that talk with their kids. But unfortunately, it's
normal.
It's normal in the black household. You gotta have that talk, how to act around cops. But even if you act, I put that in quotes, correctly, you still could end up dead.
You run
right. You're just being black. You're a threat. You're automatically a threat because of the hue of your complexion. Like, it's unfortunate. And, a lot of people refuse to accept how hard black people have it.
Yeah. And so we talking about today is some of the inequalities that we have to endure being in black. And one of the things that I am brown, because Hispanics get it pretty hard too, especially with Trump in the office. They went through quite a bit that was really fucked up for real. It's like modern day slavery. But one of the things I wanted to kind of touch on is the fact that brown and black people have higher rates of incarceration, and the crime that is done by a white person versus a black person, they get way more time for the same type of activity, which I think is something that should be addressed. I know there are organizations that are currently working on that, and it has gotten better over the years. Like, the percentage has dropped by 41% of the incarceration rate, but it still outnumbers. There's a 5-to-1 ratio of black and brown people going to jail versus a white man for the same exact crime. And when I look at that, I think about all the mass shootings, like the dude that shot up the church, and the dude that killed all them people in Vegas. He ended up killing himself, but all the mass shootings that has happened, even the guy that just recently shot up people while they was doing the protesting or whatever, like, all them people are allowed to go to jail. They're allowed to get trials and stuff like that. Let that would have been a black man doing the same thing to a bunch of white people, he would have got shot, like, out the gate. Like, when they had them police that was killed in Florida, they sent the bomb into the house before they even pulled the guy out and blew him up. He didn't have no trial or nothing. It's like, it's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, but you just automatically assume he did it, so I'm gonna blow this motherfucker up. Like what part of the game is that? Like, so when you look at the inequality in the law system, it's fucked up.
It is, and I want to bring up, well, piggyback on your incarceration comments. The biggest one for Black people being incarcerated for is marijuana.
Yeah.
A lot of states have finally legalized it for recreational use. I can just name a few. So, if you want to take a trip somewhere, you can smoke weed in Alaska.
Western states.
Of course, not the South, but Alaska, Arizona, California, Colorado, Illinois, Maine, Massachusetts, Michigan, Montana, Nevada, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, Vermont, and Virginia. Now, of those states that have legalized it, and there are some states who have decriminalized it to just like misdemeanors. Mm-hmm. But of those states that have done that, they still haven't expunged the records of people who were incarcerated for those. Yeah, they're still in prison
because they're making too much money. Now. Yeah, because they're making too much money. They can hold the bodies in there and make the money off of free labor or whatever. So that's what they would choose to do. And then the reincarceration rate with Black and brown people, because the educational system is fucked up, which is another topic I would like to talk about in here, is the fact that men who are uneducated are more likely to go back to prison. So like here they are, and then they end up getting institutionalized. Yeah, they do stuff while they're in jail, but if you're not educated as a Black person in general, then you are putting yourself at a disadvantage, because you always gotta compete in a sense with somebody who may be less educated than you, and they might still win. So
that's right. Know your rights.
Definitely.
That is something I want to stress to everybody, especially Black people. Know your rights. Know your rights.
And always get a lawyer, like for young Black people, like lawyer up, because if you don't know what they're talking about, they will get your ass.
Exactly. Like, these lawyers have payment plans. You can figure it out. Don't worry about being able to afford it, because you'll be able to pay them eventually, but you need to get your lawyer. But this is a reason why people are saying defund the police, because this is what I learned just recently, that states waste, listen to this, 3,613,969,000 $972 a year enforcing marijuana laws.
Whoa.
This is exactly why we are chanting defund the police, protesting defund the police, because those billions of dollars could go into our communities, could go into these schools.
Yeah.
It could go to so many places, but you're willing to spend billions of dollars on a drug that's better for you than alcohol, which is legal.
Yeah.
Like, it's the fact that marijuana is illegal is just racist.
Yeah.
It's basically not the white man's drug. But but listen to this. Listen to this. This is from the American Civil Liberties Union organization. Mm-hmm. This is from 2001 to 2010. According to the study, Blacks and whites used marijuana at about the same rate, with white people actually using it at a higher rate.
Of course.
White people use it at a higher rate, but Black people are nearly 4 times more likely to be arrested for it.
That's facts. Because I've seen it, like white people be in the hood buying some dope, and then they get let go versus we get prison time.
Right, they get a slap on the wrist. Mm-hmm. Oh, they're just being kids. They don't know anything.
Like, stay out of this neighborhood and don't come back over here. Yes, sir, officer, and I'm on my way. Like,
right. and like it's more than half of Americans fully believe and support that marijuana should be legalized.
Yeah.
Marijuana should be legalized.
Okay, so you spoke a little bit about the school system earlier, and that's something I wanted to touch base on for a little bit and talk about the systematic racism that's in schools. And when you look at the quality of education that's been taught in the inner city districts versus the suburban districts, the levels of education is different. The supplies that they need to properly educate at schools. Some schools don't have lunch. I'm sorry, not lunch. I must be hungry. Some schools don't have books. They don't have equipment. And you go to these suburban schools, they got like multimedia system. They just have access to so many things that are setting the children up for success. But when you go to these inner city schools, it's just different. They don't have access to those things. They don't have people motivating them to show them something different than what they are. So a lot of them, and then they're not learning in the same way. So a lot of them drop out of school because they don't feel like that it's a necessity. They don't feel any passion about going to school because they're not encouraged to do something different. Another thing that I found was interesting was the security system in inner city schools versus white school, which I think is superb. Because I know for me, when I was growing up, I have been to a suburban school versus inner city schools. And when I went to the suburban school, they didn't have metal detectors. They didn't have any of those things. You can just walk into school and do whatever. I was like, but when I started going to the inner city school, there was all these metal detectors, drop your bag at the door and let me go through it and all these things. But who are doing the school shootings, the mass shootings at the schools? It's not us. Like, bruh, like who really needs the metal detectors? So
It's never us.
when you think about the inequality and it's like they training us to say, okay, like even for me, like when I look at homes from education for my kids, like the reason why I live where I live is because of the educational system in the area that I live in was rated in the top 10 of education. But I'm like, but the cost of living is higher out here. But it's a better school district. And so it's like, what do you choose if you want a better life for your kids? You know what I mean? Like you got to go that direction. And I think that's pretty fucked up.
It is definitely. And, property value definitely has something to do with the school system because, property taxes pay for our school system, right?
Right.
And so the more densely populated inner city where all the black people live, property ain't worth much. Mm-hmm. You're not getting much in property taxes. So not much money is going into the school system. And it's black people, as unfortunate as it is, black homeowners bring property value down.
Yeah.
And that's a fact. Like when whites, Asians, and Latinas, black people are at the bottom of the list when it comes to who they want to be their neighbor. For black people, at the top of the list, we would rather be in a mixed race neighborhood. Then we would rather live next to the Asians, then Latinas, and then last, at the very bottom of the top pole is white people. We do not want to live in a neighborhood with all white people. But for whites, Asians, Latinas, we're at the bottom of the list. Like nobody wants to live near black people. Black people bring down property value. Why is that?
I can't answer why, but I can understand it because, like, when you look at, like, even when gentrification happens and they do take an area and try to upgrade it, how long is that area going to stay that way if they don't completely clear it out? Like, they keep the neighbors and everything like that, but they want to fix up this one area. Like, how long before that one area becomes disarray because of the surroundings? And I think that it goes back to like being valued or valuing other things. And if I had to take a guess at it, like black people feel like it's not my stuff anyway and it ain't made for me, so why keep it nice? Or I don't give a fuck, I'm just litter right here, or I'm gonna just spray paint this, or whatever the case may be, because they don't see value in the community as a whole. They just feel like that's not my stuff, so whatever, I'm just gonna treat it like whatever. I think that's the mentality that may be there to have. Not to say I'm right, it's all speculation at the end of the day. But I think that's where it kind of goes in that direction. So
that's a good point. That's a good point. I mean, I would make the argument that I guess black people got to do better, but we don't have to do better. We're like this because y'all need to treat us better. Maybe if you treat us better, we'll do better.
Yeah, I think everybody just need to treat each other better. I think at the end of the day, I just think that there's not enough love in the world. Like, everybody wants to find a reason to hate each other. I think black people find a reason to hate other black people find a reason to hate white people find a reason to hate everybody. It's just all these things. Like, you know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, it just boils down to like the golden rule: treat others as you want to be treated, and let that resonate. And a lot of people are just not willing to do that out of whatever reason or background that they come from. They rather hate instead of love, and I think that's where we kind of falling short as a overall culture.
You're right. Well, I feel like that's a good stopping point. I feel like you and I could talk about this
Definitely
for a very long time, but we won't hold you guys up.
Yep.
But I mean, thank you so much for tuning in. Obviously, this is something that we're pretty passionate about. If you don't know what Juneteenth is, still look into it. And if you do know what Juneteenth is and you plan on celebrating, let us know how you're celebrating. Tag us, hashtag us, similar thoughts. Let us know how you're celebrating Juneteenth.
And there's definitely probably going to be a lot of stuff in the Atlanta area for Juneteenth because they do something every year to kind of commemorate the day. So be on the lookout for that. Just kind of search Juneteenth, and I'm sure something will pop up for you to go that's safe and fun, to have fun with your family. And teach your kids about it, Let it be a generational
Absolutely.
thing.
Absolutely. Well, we love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in once again, and we'll see you again next week.
Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed today's topic, let's keep the conversation going. Make sure you like us on Facebook at Similar Thoughts Podcast and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at _Similar Thoughts.
And also follow me at A1 the Artist. That's AONE _the _artist. And I am the Black Sheep. And that's IM _THA Black Sheep. Thanks again for listening. And you guys have a wonderful week. What's up, I'm your girl A1 the Artist, aka I am the Black Sheep.
And I'm your girl Robin.
And today we're going to talk about the shit that people think about
but don't want to talk about. Similar thoughts.
Welcome back, everyone, to Similar Thoughts. I hope you guys had a great week. How was yours since the last time we spoke, A1?